Hi, this is CompassCare's 5-minute weekday devotional. Today is March 30th. Today's verse is Psalm 72, verses 1 and 2. It says this, Give the king your judgments, O God, and your righteousness to the king's son. May he judge your people with righteousness and your afflicted with justice. There's a couple things to ask about this text. It says, give the king your judgments. Well, the question is, what is a king? The king is a ruler. A king is someone who leads his people, right? And by the way, it says, give the king your judgments. So he's not asking for, presumably this is a prayer by Solomon. Solomon, of course, was one of the wisest people in history as a leader. And he says, give the king your judgments. Why are God's judgments important? What does the king do? He judges, but what is he's judging what? He makes decisions between one option and another option. But more often than not, leaders make decisions based on 1 in 1,000 options, 1 in 10,000 options. And so it's critical, it's absolutely essential that in order to get the right decisions made, they have to come from God. We have to parse out all the various complexities of a circumstance and how they might impact not just me, but 1,000 other people, and that can only come from God. It goes on, and your righteousness to the king's son. Give the king your judgments, O God, and your righteousness to the king's son. Meaning he wants this righteousness, this God's presence, to flow down through the lineage of the king or the leader. And so what is the context for leadership? The context for leadership is righteousness. That is God's character and God's nature being made manifest in the leadership decisions and skills of the king or the prince or whoever the leader might be at the time. And your righteousness to the king's son. Give your righteousness. It's one thing to make a good decision. It's nothing altogether to be in a position that manifests the character and nature of God. To be in righteousness is something only God can give us. We are not naturally righteous. It has to come from God and from God alone. And have consistency of judgment, have consistency in leadership. Right leadership means that we have to be found in God all the time. Now he goes on, may he judge your people with righteousness. May the king, this is the king, right? He is the king. May the king judge or rule or make decisions for your people. And what is this? It is not the king's people. When a leader leads, he is not leading his own people. When somebody is elected to an official capacity, they are not his people. President Trump's position is not a leader over his people. They're not his people. And so the right perspective here for any leader is, look, whether I'm a pastor or a leader of a nonprofit or a politician, they are not, the people that we are leading are not our own. They are God's people, which is why it's important that we get our ability to lead and make proper decisions based on God's judgments, based on his character, his righteousness. May he judge your people, that is the king, the leader, judge your people with righteousness. That is, lead your people in a way that's consistent with your character and your nature, O Lord. That's the prayer of Solomon, because he knows that true civilized order cannot exist apart from leaders who are found in God. And you're afflicted with justice. So may he judge your people with righteousness, and you're afflicted with justice. Who are the afflicted? Are they the people with the coronavirus? Certainly they're afflicted in a certain kind of way. But the reality is we are, all of us, afflicted. Every single one of us are afflicted with a disease, and we all know what that disease is. It's called sin. The sin allowed for death to enter in, and death enters into our lives, every single one of our lives, in a multiplicative kind of way, as well as many different kinds of ways. Not only does it increases and enhances over time, but it enters into our lives in lots of different ways. But we are afflicted. And Jesus Christ came to relieve us from our affliction. He has promised to heal us from all of our sicknesses and diseases through the resurrection. And not just separating our bodies from our souls, but the resurrection itself is a recreation from the inside out of ourselves as well as all creation to set things right so that sin and death will be ultimately done away. That is our hope. Our hope is not in medicine. Our hope is not in finances. Our hope is not in government. Our hope is found in people, the people of God, who are submitting to the righteous judgments of God. And the leaders of our organizations, the leaders of these Christian organizations, have been given an opportunity to lead in this time of crisis, this time of trial, this time of uncertainty, the strange times. Christians are uniquely suited to do that. And as a Christian leader myself, I find these times to be both, a little bit unnerving as well as somewhat exhilarating, because these are the times when God can show up. These are the times when we are called upon by God to leverage the faith that He has given us to stand on principle and keep doing the right thing by way of the people that we lead and by way of the people that we serve. We are to follow Christ in submission to His principles and in self-sacrifice for our neighbor. And we can't do that very well when we separate ourselves from them. So let's keep going. Let's keep focusing on God. Let's keep submitting ourselves to God's principles, and let's keep sacrificing for one another, because God's judgments are righteous, and we are found in Him because of the cross of Christ. Thanks, and have a great day. God bless.